The Cincinnati Reds outfield could really use two additions this offseason.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Reds. My name is Jeff Carr, and I am a lifelong Cincinnati Reds fan. I've been hosting this podcast as a solo host or a co-host for almost 7 years now, and I love talking Reds with you every single day because Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. And on today's podcast, we are going to really discuss this offseason. What does the outfield addition plan look like, and why the Reds could really use two outfielders? We'll also discuss the infield equation and how Noelvi Marte fits into that. And later on, there was a coaching addition of a former World Series champion and a former Reds manager who moved on. We'll discuss all that coming up later on in today's show that is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app today and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB to save $20 off your first purchase.
But I think Josh has posted this a couple times in the chat. And Josh is a long timer around here, so let's get it in. If the front office, he says, if the front office does things right for once, it will be one outfielder from each side of the plate. If dollar isn't an issue, he's picking Santander and Conforto. Do we know anything about the announcers yet? So multiple questions in here. We don't know anything about the announcers yet. I've reached out and not heard back, which leads me to think that they don't know yet. And when they know, I will definitely let you know. The other piece of this, they need an outfielder from each side of the plate. They don't need another lefty, right? I mean, you've got Fraley and you've got Friedel. Do you need another left-handed outfielder?
That would kind of make Fraley your roving outfielder, almost like your fifth outfielder where he fits in where you need him to. And then the right-hander or the left-hander that you would sign, which would be Conforto in this scenario, you could then platoon with Spencer Steer. And you say, Conforto, you hit righties, Steer, you play on the infield when lefties are pitching, or when righties are pitching, and then you play left field when lefties are pitching. I don't mind that, but I would think in that scenario, if you're signing two and you're worried about both sides of the plate, you'll probably spend more money on the left-hander and less on the right-hander.
Well, he's signing Santander in this scenario. So
right,
that's an everyday guy, right?
Opposite.
And so Friedel is your everyday guy. It's two everyday guys. Your platoon of Conforto and Steer is your third everyday guy, right? So that's four outfielders. Jake Fraley is your fifth outfielder / DH. I guess the numbers work there. Like 5 is at the minimum for outfielders. And we've seen them carry 6 outfielders because the outfield's just been so terrible. So I think you could probably get by with 5.
And you could make the case in this scenario that Spencer Steer also counts as an infielder for you as well. So that does help your roster construction a little bit. I just wonder a little bit, though. I think if they sign Santander, they're probably not making too many other moves that cost a lot of money. There's going to be more waiver claims / veteran minimum type deals, minor league invites with spring training, all that other stuff. Simply because I think Spot Track is low, and I think you think Spot Track is low as well, saying that they only believe Anthony Santander is going to make $17.7 million
that's crazy
per
talk.
year. I think he's making at least
crazy
20.
Talk. It's crazy talk. Absolutely.
So that's going to be I think if you sign multiple outfielders, it's because one of your outfielders that you sign is Profar or O'Neill. I don't think you sign Santander and then you get another free agent outfielder. That would be awesome, but it's just what the Reds typically do. I don't think that's what the Reds would end up doing.
Kerry wants to talk about the Will Benson interview on MLB Hot Stove. Will Benson was hyping himself up. I have a couple takes. I have a couple takes here.
Yeah.
He should absolutely hype himself up. Be your own hype man. Go out there. Tell us what you think you're going to do to fix things. Tell us what you think you're going to do to be better than your god-awful 2024. Great. Tell us all those things. That being said, Nick Krall should not be listening to any of those things. Nick Krall needs to already have in his head that Will Benson will be in Louisville. He will be in AAA trying to prove to the powers that be that he's still a valuable piece. And I think that's where he belongs. And I think that's where he'll end up.
This was Will Benson's demeanor last offseason as well. And we saw what happened in 2024. Like, he's got to put in the work. And quite frankly, individually, he should be surprised when he begins the year in Louisville. But as an organization, nobody else should be. It should be the plan. He struck out almost 40% of the time last year. And for whatever production he had in homers or doubles or whatever, it was outweighed by that strikeout total. And quite frankly, as a defender with the glove, really wasn't that much better. And I said that's really going to be how he can separate himself, because I don't know, like, he can improve his strikeout rate by 10% and still strike out 30% of the time. And that's just the crazy amount of the crazy thing to think about him, is that a improvement is striking out once every 3 at bats. So I think that the big improvement he can make is with the glove. Be a very good fielder, be the kind of guy that you can count on if there's a fly ball to right field or left field or wherever he's playing, even center field, that he's going to catch it. And if there's a guy on third, he's got to worry about Will Benson's arm, because right now that is not the case when he plays.
All right, let's go this to Boswick's. He says, being deaf, I may have missed this on a previous podcast. If the infield is good to go, what is the backup catcher status? Ty Steve can't catch 162. You're absolutely right about that. Says, thanks for answering. I'm curious about this myself, Jeff, because backup
There's a
catchers
help wanted ad out there.
They're flying off the market, man. And if this drags on much longer, I think it could be me or you. No.
There's a chance Luke
Tim
Mailey's
Daniel,
just returning with some of the guys that have already been signed.
I think it was Tim Daniel I heard make a fairly interesting point that maybe this becomes a Rule 5 guy. Maybe the backup catcher ends up being like a Rule 5 guy or a waiver wire guy. And I don't like either of those ideas because you need luck to fall to you. You know, stinking hope is a strategy again. You got to hope that somebody good falls to you. I don't want that to be the case. They need to go out and get somebody. So that being said, Jeff, of the remaining guys out there, is there somebody you want them to go get? I don't know if there's much in the way of needle movers, and it's unfortunate because I've said a lot that, this is a guy that's going to play. He's going to play quite a bit. And I would like for it to be somebody where when Ty Steve isn't in the lineup, you don't just take a complete nosedive.
I guess I think I'm looking at Elias Diaz he played with the Padres last year, would be an interesting option. Kyle Higashioka. But quite frankly, we're getting to the territory where maybe just a return of Luke Mailey. Because you're going to look at some of these guys, like I think Higashioka is more of a bat than a glove, and I think the same goes for Elias Diaz. Like, I think they're fine at blocking the plate, but I don't think that they're very good at controlling the run game, which is really something that the Reds need. Because Tyler Stephenson, while he improved in a lot of areas, controlling the running game was still a weakness for him. I think if you're going to get a backup catcher that you kind of want to complement your catcher one, maybe get somebody who's a little bit stronger at the weaknesses that Tyler Stephenson has on the field. You're not going to get a guy that's better hitting. You're probably not going to get a better framer at this point because Jacob Stallings and Austin Hedges were both signed almost immediately. Maybe you could get Danny Jansen, but you're going to have to pay for that. That's not going to be a small signing. So I'm looking at, guys that you probably don't have to pay that much for. And then Yasmani Grandal's out there. But if I'm comparing Yasmani Grandal to Luke Mailey, I think I still want Luke Mailey at that point.
Oh, and I haven't
They're
heard
not
a lot
sexy
about
options. That's for sure.
Yeah. Elias Diaz is interesting to me. Just cursory looking at his stuff. He had an 87 OPS plus, so 13% below league average on the year. His slash his slash line, 265, 313, 382, split between Colorado and San Diego. And I say Colorado, San Diego, he played 12 games for the Padres last year. I'd be fine with that. I guess I think that's really the answer. Whoever it is, we're going to go, okay, I guess that's fine. I don't know.
Right. He's going to be the backup catcher. And
we need a big year from Ty Steve. He needs,
Yeah.
When he was on this show, he told us 130 games. I need him to catch 130 games in 2025.
And that's why, I look at this and I kind of compare Tyler Stephenson to Jonathan India, obviously, because they were up at the same time. They were looked at as the longest tenured Reds for a moment. The Reds need to sign Tyler. I think it's almost as big as getting an outfielder at this point to give Tyler Stephenson a long-term deal. Unless they just plan on rebuilding the catcher position through trades and free agency in a year or two, Tyler Stephenson's only got 2 more years of control left, this year in 2026. And so at this point, if you don't sign him now, you force yourself into a corner next offseason where whatever he wants, he gets. And if you don't do it then you do have to do that rebuild. You have to look at trading Tyler Stephenson for one, because this is the same window that we talked about with Jonathan India. So if you're not going to sign him for 4 or 5 more years, or at least 3 years, sign him for at least 3 more years, then you got to look at trading him. And the Reds cannot afford that right now, because there is no trade for there is no trade for Tyler Stephenson that makes this team better, because you would dramatically cripple the catching position. And quite frankly, if you cripple your catcher position, the rest of the team is going to struggle as well. Noelvi Marte has a role on this team, but man, it's cloudy. We're in the heart of Christmas shopping season, so everybody's going to be looking to save a buck or two here or there and get some cash back. So you got to get the Ibotta app now and get started watching that cash back rolling in. Ibotta is a free app that gives you the most cash back every time you shop on hundreds of items, from groceries to beauty supplies to toys, electronics, everything in between. So you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. Join over 50 million users and earn cash back every time you shop from over 2,700 different brands and retailers, including all your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKEDONMLB when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store, download the free Ibotta app, and start earning cash back, and use that code LOCKEDONMLB for $5. Again, that's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB. The next time you're looking to get to an event, whether it be a sporting event, a performance, some kind of concert, whatever, use Game Time. Game Time's got amazing last-minute deals on the seats that you're looking for. Steve and I use Game Time all the time, especially during baseball season. We go down to the banks, post up, find a spot, and just wait until close to the beginning of the game or the event that we're going to. Then we jump on Game Time to find those low prices. Plus, you can download the app today, and when you create your account, you can use the code LOCKEDONMLB, and you'll save another $20 on your first purchase. So you're getting awesome last-minute deals, and you're saving an extra $20 on top of that with the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Game Time makes sure that you don't have to guess whenever you're going to an event. If you're going to a place you've never been, they show you your view from the seat that you're looking at so that you know what you're getting into. Check out Game Time today. And like I said, use that promo code LOCKEDONMLB to save $20 off your first purchase when you create an account today. What time is it? It's game time.
How about this from Andrew? Because we haven't really talked about this. Why doesn't Spencer Steer get a chance at third? Andrew feels that's Spencer Steer's best position. Marte hasn't proven anything and seems to have regressed. So I agree with that take on Marte. I'm really starting to wonder if there's something to the enhanced performance when he made his debut. I don't know. We don't know. But he sure has fallen off the table. Spencer Steer at third base, Jeff. Healthy CES, no limitations, no wrist problem. He's your first baseman. Matt McLean, healthy shoulder, no limitations. You don't need to DH him. He's your second baseman. Ellie's clearly your shortstop. If you get the outfielders, could you Spencer Steer third base, Jamer Candelario DH, and spot start to give guys a day off? Does that's not a bad line. That's not a bad alignment, I guess, is what I'm saying.
I could see that. I don't know that I agree with the idea that third is his best.
No, I don't think so.
Told you that second is his best. He believes that, but he also loves to move around. I think that if I were to put him on an infield position, I would think about second, but I don't know that Spencer Steer needs an everyday position. I don't even know that he wants to have an everyday position. I think he likes the idea of moving around. And I don't know that I take issue with the Marte assessment. I don't know that we have enough information on Noelvi Marte. I don't think that it's fair to assess him based on 2024 as much as it wasn't fair to say that we knew who he was based on the limited amount of time he got in 2023. I still think that there's promise there. And I think that what he shows us in 2025 will tell us all we need to know about him. I don't know that I know a guy based on, whatever he's got, like 400 career at bats. That's not anything at all. And I think that he's a prime breakout candidate for 2025. He's got the raw potential. He just has to connect his raw ability with in-game ability, and he hasn't done that yet.
I'm really concerned about Noelvi Marte. I mean, if you take let's just take what we know. What we know is he came up, he had a very interesting debut. He did things that made us say he was going to be a rookie of the year candidate. He was going to be a guy that set the show on fire a little bit. We get into an offseason. He gets busted using PEDs. He gets suspended. He comes back from that, and he couldn't hit. He couldn't hit at the big league level, and now he can't hit in the winter league. So when you ask yourself what changed, he got caught with the PEDs, and now there's a microscope on him. That's what changed. So I have a lot of big questions now, Jeff. I mean, I want to believe that he's that candidate for all of the things, but I don't know that he is. I'm a little worried about. I'm a little worried about him going into the bust category at this point. And I hope you're right. I hope that he shows us something. But I am no longer. And I've told you this when we've kicked around lineups. I am no longer counting on him to be on the big league roster. I'm not even putting him there. And if he finds a way to play his way onto the big league roster, well, that's icing on a cake I didn't even know we had in the fridge. It just is just extra. So that's kind of how I'm viewing him.
I know that there are a lot of folks that are reacting to his performance in the Dominican Winter League right now. I'm not, but very little stock.
He should be setting that league on fire. If he's the guy that we thought he was going to be and we said he was going to be. This is just like when you send major leaguers to, like we talked about this with the Arizona Fall League, and Matt McClain was just tagging the ball. Like, well, yeah, he should. He's a big leaguer playing against guys that are 4 and 5 years away. That's what he should do. And Noelvi Marte should be knocking the cover off the ball in the Dominican or in the Winter League, because that's what he should do, and he's not doing it.
But what happens if he shows up in Goodyear and he hits 300? Are we going to say he needs to be the
No, because spring training stats don't mean nothing.
So who was the best Dominican Winter League player last year?
I don't know.
Because it doesn't matter in the terms of Major League Baseball. You get to Major League Baseball and you perform, period, end of story.
Well,
I don't put any stock in the Arizona Fall League. I don't put any stock in the Winter Leagues of Dominican. Is he healthy? That's all that matters. And right now he looks healthy. I just don't know who he is. There is no information that makes me feel one way or the other. I don't feel good about him, but I also don't feel bad about him either. I still want to see what he's got.
Good questions getting asked today. Austin B, as an infield question, is it possible Edwin Arano will be up at some point in 2025? Could be able to plug a hole. I think you and I differ on this, because I don't think there's, barring disaster, I don't think there's a scenario where he's in the majors in 2025. I think you start him in Chattanooga, let him show you that he's ready to move up to AAA, and then give him the rest of the year at AAA, because he missed an entire year. He's coming off of a major injury. He missed a whole year of development, a whole year of facing pitches. I think in his best long-term interest, you take the majors out of the equation in 2025.
I was with you until I saw every beat writer, whenever they wrote something about the team, bringing him up. I think that there's something to that. Yeah. And they weren't bringing him up in a takey fashion. They were bringing him up as including him in some sort of plan. I don't think it's going to be on opening day. I don't think it's going to be in the first half of the year. But there's a chance we could probably see him later on in the year, just based on what I'm reading. And part of what we do is we analyze the team, we watch the team, we make our takes, but we also read the tea leaves as well. And the tea leaves are kind of telling me a little bit that don't count him out this season, because there were people talking about where does Ellie De La Cruz move that weren't you and me. And then they weren't mentioning the outfield, but they were like, when does he move to third base? And I'm like, well, obviously wouldn't be thinking about it till 2026, but they were talking about it in the guise of what happens when Edwin Arroyo gets here. And they don't write that stuff years in advance. They write it as if that's going to happen at some point this year.
No, we know that the front office does have some off the record conversations with the beat writers, and past experience has said that when they all start talking about a thing, it's because it was talked about in one of those off the record huddles. So that's not a bad take, Jeff. And honestly, he's got the talent, right? And defensively, he's probably the best defensive shortstop in the system when he's healthy.
Yeah.
So I get it. And I guess
absolutely anybody who's watched him has said that he is already a major league level defender, but the question has never been with his glove.
Where's his bat going to be? I guess I just don't want to see them rush him. And I don't want to have another Jose Barrero. That's exactly where I was going. I don't want to see another Jose Barrero, right? Where I feel like, and maybe he was always going to flame out. I don't know. But I feel like the Reds did a huge disservice to him, putting him in a position where he couldn't be successful. There was nothing that Jose Barrero could do when they called him up during that crazy COVID season that was going to make him be successful. He was just overmatched from day one. And I don't want them to do that. And I hope they learned a lesson from that. And, if Edwin Arroyo's good to go, if they think he can hit major league pitching, okay.
I think,
and then we're going to have a whole show on where does Ellie De La Cruz move. So
right.
there you go.
Because you should move to center field. But I think when it comes to Edwin Arroyo, like, I would be more bullish on his chances to be on the major league roster. I mean, the only reason I'm even saying that is because those guys have been talking about it. If it were just me analyzing what I've seen, I'd say no. We're waiting until 2026 to talk about that. Because I'm not more bullish on his chances because he has struggled at the minor league level at times with hitting. He was, for the first bit of his time in Dayton, he was a singles hitter that had trouble with contact. He wasn't showing a lot of power. When he got a hit, it was a single, and he struck out a lot. And when you show that at one level, that's not Florida. There's a tendency, and this was a thing with Jonathan India back in the day, where he struggled in Daytona, but everybody struggles in that league to hit for power.
Mm-hmm.
Edwin Arroyo did so in Dayton. And I think with that gives me a little bit of pause. I want to see him hit in Chattanooga. I want to see him hit in Louisville before I feel good about seeing him try to hit in Cincinnati. The Reds added a World Series champion to their coaching staff just the other day, and it's kind of exciting.
Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. And while you're there, check out next year's World Series odds. Those Reds, 60-1 odds might be worth putting a few bucks on them to win it all in 2025. Just saying, might be a good time to get on that. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets backs if your first bet of $5 wins. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. This from Ted Vaughn. Have the Reds addressed the medical staff and strength and conditioning coaches? Maybe an upgrade. Haven't heard anything about the medical staff or strength and conditioning. And when they overhauled the medical staff, I don't know, 4 years ago now, we didn't hear a peep about that either until the team got to Goodyear and like, hey, there's new strength and conditioning and medical people. Look at that.
Right.
The Reds didn't make a big deal out of it at all. If they do make changes, we won't hear about it. It'll be something we see once spring training gets underway. That being said, I wish they would, because I have said loudly that something's wrong there. You don't miss as many times as this medical staff missed over the last couple years and be told you did a good job. So I think they need a different philosophy with how they're recovering players and how they're holding these players accountable to their own health. And I think you need changes.
And outside of like a medical perspective on this, maybe there's a change in how everything operates just based on the fact that it's Terry Francona that is conversing with them and communicating with them instead of David Bell. Maybe Terry Francona's got a different way of dealing with this. Maybe he's got a different philosophy when it comes to the news that he receives from the medical staff. And I know that he's a player first coach, but I mean, I think that there could be a positive impact there. I think that there's a positive impact in many different areas by the fact that the Reds hired Terry Francona. There's so many different people that analyze the game. I saw that one of the main editors for Baseball America was talking about the Reds as being one of the biggest or one of the best teams to watch for next year, simply because of the hiring of Terry Francona. And he said this, just after the India trade and before they've made any other moves. So I think there's a lot of folks that have kind of earmarked the Reds because of hiring Terry Francona as being like, okay, this team looks really like they're in a really good spot to succeed for next season.
Let's try and jump around a little bit here, Jeff, because the chat today's been great. There's lots of good stuff going on in here. And, you mentioned, Napoli's role not being disclosed, and maybe he'll be kind of a roving Barry Larkin, Eric Davis type going around. And Jake jumps in and says, would love to see Joey Votto get a spring training invite. We know Buddy is okay toiling around in the minor leagues. Well, he wasn't okay. He quit. He left baseball because he couldn't get out of there. But I think this will happen. I think we will see a day where Joey Votto is that guy that Barry Larkin, Eric Davis show up at spring, help the youngins along kind of deal. That won't be this year. I think, Joey Votto is living his best life right now. He is out there making chess bots and eating bread in France and wandering around Italy and doing all
skydive too.
Things.
Like when they're picturing
so, yes,
skydiving,
the guy is living his best life. And I think sometime soon we're going to see him driving a school bus. I think that will actually happen. We'll see him do that. Right. And then he'll come back to baseball, because that's who Joey Votto is. He is a baseball guy. And there's a lot I think he deserves to have a minute to go be retired and do the things you can't do or weren't allowed to do.
And I think at some point he may return to the game, but there's also a possibility that he doesn't. There's players that when they retire, they find something out about themselves. Like I think a friend of the show, Bronson Arroyo, like I've asked him before, would you ever consider coming back to baseball as a coach? And he said, I love what I do now. He travels all over the world, plays music all over the world. And, he's in and out of baseball as he chooses and as he pleases. I think Joey Votto could probably do something similar.
And I would love to see him around, Jeff. I mean, I think once he finally unleashed his real personality, and we got to really kind of see who he was, that's a fun guy.
Much fun.
He's a fun guy. I want to have him around the broadcast booth. I want to have him around the team. I really
listen to him talk baseball for hours and hours and hours.
All right, let's move on to this next one. Where'd it go? Here we go. This from Chris. I guess Chris messaged you about this. You were having a conversation about Mike Napoli being retained by the team as a part of the coaching staff, but wants to know my thoughts on it. Listen, I'm the guy that didn't think there was enough turnover on the coaching staff. I wanted there to be, not that I think the guys they kept around are bad. I just wanted there to be some fresh eyes, some new voices, do things a little bit differently in 2025. So I was not rah-rah about the people that got to stay around. That being said, I embraced it and can see why you wanted to keep certain people in certain positions. I like this hire. I like going out and getting a guy that has a career 26.3 WAR. That ain't nothing. That's a guy that played in the majors for 12 years. That's a guy that's been there, done it. And I think that's a guy that has the experience that can help these young guys along, that can help to bring these players more towards what we think they're capable of and what we think they should be. I like this hire. I like, in the absence of the veteran leadership drum being on the signings for the free agents, right? Like, oh, they got to go get a veteran leader, and they traded away India. He's the clubhouse guy. First of all, I think that stuff's way overrated. I don't think that that's as big a deal as either it was in the past or as the media likes to make it out to be, or we like to think it is. I don't really think it's that big a deal. These are professionals that are making millions of dollars that I think for the most part handle their business. But you do need experience, and you need guys that have been there and done that. And I think Mike Napoli fills that bill.
You say overrated. I say Matt McLain fills that role anyway. Like, I think Matt McLain could easily be the number one leader on this team, the captain of this team, whatever you want to call him. I think that, and I think he's going to be much better on the field than Jonathan India was. So I think that that's kind of how you feel that. And the headline on Mike Napoli was that he was hired to an undisclosed role. So there is not like a specific thing that he's going to be focused on. I think this is going to be similar to what Barry Larkin's done in the past, where he's kind of a roving instructor. We'll see him in spring training. He might hit some of the minor league teams. He might spend most of his time with the major league team. But quite frankly, if you had to give him a title, just be like guy who knows how to win coach. Like, I think that's who Mike Napoli is going to end up being, because dude's won a World Series.
Justin says, I heard David Bell's in the Blue Jays front office now. Good for David Bell. Look, I mean, we had a lot of fun making fun of David Bell, and he's now found himself in a spot where we don't ever have to listen to him talk again. We don't ever have to listen to him. I guarantee you that he's not going to be leaning into a microphone up in Toronto going, well, we were just trying to work really, really hard to go find the best players, and I'm supporting the front office just the best I can. And I think, we're almost there. No more of that. It's done. David Bell is an assistant to the general manager. I think that's where he belongs. If you remember, the Reds plucked him out of front office gigs to make him the manager. And cool, fine. I think David Bell is best suited to be an executive. I don't think he's a manager. I don't think we'll see him in a dugout ever again. If I can make a little bit of a bold hot take for you there, Jeff, I think his managing days are done. I don't think we'll ever see him in a dugout again.
He interviewed to be the Blue Jays manager, and Blue Jays brass was like, you know what? You're better suited in our front office. I think you're right.
Well, and that's what we said we thought would happen with him ultimately, right? Like, that he would. I didn't think the Reds would actually have the stones to fire him because of the family's relationship with the Castellinis, but I always thought he would be fired by promotion. Assistant general manager, special assistant to the one of those jobs. So this kind of fits that lane. I think he ended up exactly where he needs to be as an executive.
He headed up player development for the
Giants,
didn't he?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's kind of how I think that's why the Reds hired him as a manager. They thought he'd be more developmental than he ended up being. I don't think that was a part of his managerial ability belt, or his utility belt. So I think that the front office is where he will remain. I'm with you.
All right, guys, we are at the hour and 10-minute mark almost. I think that is a good spot to go ahead and wrap it up for today. Thanks as always for being on the live shows, gang. Really appreciate you guys. Click the like button for me. Just click it. We love having you here. It helps push the show out to new viewers. We want to talk baseball with as many people as possible. So that helps drive it along. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. If you know a Reds fan out there that's not watching yet, send us along to them. We'd love to have them here as well. And on that note, Jeff, get us out of here.
Yeah, thanks everybody so much for checking out today's Locked On Reds. Coming up on the next episode, we're going to discuss the bullpen, because there were a couple of moves on the non-tender thing. Ian Gibaut gone, Buck Farmer's a free agent. There actually might be a couple of holes there. We're going to discuss how the Reds could fill them on the next Locked On Reds podcast. Make sure you join us for that, because we will be Locked On Reds every single day.